Today on Roblox Tower Heroes, I'm going to be diving deep into sandbox mode to be able to change the stats on some towers inside the game. Some that I think need major buffs and some that need major nerfs. So let's go ahead and hop into the video and see what we can do. Okay, so let's go ahead and start out with some of the towers that I think could use some buffs inside the game, and it's these ones right here. This is not really in any specific order, however, I do believe the Beetrice is one of those ones that I do think that we need a major buff on. If you've been around Tower Heroes for any length of time, you probably have heard people talk about this Beetrice tower right here, which you can get on Honeycomb Heist on the hard mode. Now, this is one of the worst towers currently in the game, and she needs either a major rework or a major buff on her stats. Because there are some towers like Haze that you can get at the Halloween event, which is fixing to come up. This summons crows, and it has an infinite amount of range, while Beetrice has does less damage actually, and also has a limited amount of range. So first things first, let's go over here to my settings and then come down here to the stat edit. This is something that is available only when you have the sandbox mode game pass. Come right down over here to Beetrice, and then we're gonna click on some of these levels. So right now, this is what we've got looking like for my level 1 Beetrice right here. We have a range that is 2+, we have one more bee limit, we have one more health added to the bees, or actually 2 more health added to the original honeybees, and then they do the same amount of damage at 6. Now, if we were to level Beetrice up all the way to level 5, we're gonna do that right here because this is kind of the big one we all really want to talk about. She has a range of only 14. She only has a spawn limit of 8 bees, which is not horrible, but their health is 10. That could be definitely buffed, and then we also have a damage of 22.
A few minutes later.
So this is the final stats I have on my Beetrice right here. What would yours be? Let me know down in the comments below. In my humble opinion, I really feel like the range on Beetrice, which is originally 14 and max level right now, needs to be around this. This is range of 30. It could even be bigger than this because I really feel like Haze has such a bigger advantage with the infinite range, but I don't want to go way over the top either. We've already done some stuff to help her out here. Another hero that could use some reworking is my man Keith right here. Keith doesn't need that much done to him in my opinion. I feel like if we could go down here and find him, he's right here. I think if we may have had a little more damage at the very top or wherever he's at. If we do this, he's at currently 60 damage right now. If we turn this up to maybe 65, let's say that right there, and then if we gave him a range of, let's go 14. This is the new Keith right here. For some reason, it's not showing the new damage, but that's okay. It is giving me the range. That'd probably be a good idea for Keith. He doesn't need a whole lot of reworking, but I mean, definitely a buff nonetheless. My man Wafer right here definitely could use some reworking as well. I do understand he just got a buff in this last update, but it wasn't enough in my eyes to really be a major change. Level 4 is one of these that I think could be definitely increased a little bit to a range of maybe not 18, but let's say 16 at least. I'd like to give this guy a range of 20 to 22 depending on how big it is. If we level this up to level 5, this seems like a much better range for Wafer because he does have that big old cannon thing on the end of his like, what is this, on a staff thing? This seems a little bit more reasonable for Wafer, and if I were to personally try and say what I'd like for the damage to look like, I'd say probably 50 for, or maybe let's go 55 actually for the low, and then let's boost this up to 78 for the high. Let's even speed up that rate to a speed of 0.8 seconds right there. This seems pretty good. Now let's talk about one of the most controversial towers to be able to use inside the game sometimes is Volt. In my eyes personally, really the only thing that I see that needs to be done with Volt is the range needs to be buffed up to about 7 or 8 in my opinion, and then the damage needs to be probably double. So 44 would probably be a good base stat in my opinion to be able to kind of get Volt to where he was back in his old days. Now, this might be a little bit much for Volt. I understand this because this is almost like having a balloon pal and a spectre around here without having those. But in my opinion, this is another tower just like Beetrice. It needs some work. And some of you may be surprised to be able to actually find this tower on here, but the Scientist is another one that needs just a little bit of reworking done to it or a bit of a buff. They kind of made the prices go up on how much this cost in the last update. I'm not sure if they did anything to the damage or not, but let's go ahead and talk about this one really quickly. We'll focus on level 5 right here. I feel like the range at 16.5 is pretty good. We won't touch that. That's pretty good. I would turn the cooldown or the rate personally to 2 instead of 2.3 just to give it a little bit better of a attack. I would be giving this damage a rate of 18 to 20. We'll leave it at 18 on the low end because it's already pretty good, but just think it needs a little bit of a boost in that area of the damage, especially at max level. Let's go ahead and try and send a giant snowman through here to be able to figure out how they compare with all this. Oh, look at that. Wow, they just took out 4,000 damage. Like, that was crazy. I may have gone a little bit overboard there. Okay, let's go ahead and try a real boss. We're gonna go to the make a cake section over here, and we're gonna try the hard mode cake Rex over here. Here we go, let's spawn this bad boy and see how they do. This is the Cakeosaurus Rex right here against 100,000 health. This is no spectre, no anything. And honestly, that's actually not too bad. And obviously you got to think about if you have a spectre going right here, this probably be double what we have right now. So this might have been a little bit of an extreme buff for all of these towers, but maybe adjust their stuff by a couple of numbers, and then I think these towers will be much better off than they are now. Hey there, friend, if nobody has told you yet today, you are seen, you are known, and you are loved by both Jesus and by me. And if you've been enjoying this video so far, I'd love for you to be able and like it, and also subscribe to our channel, Super Sword Central, if you enjoy Tower Heroes content. We have a Roblox fan group that I'd love for you to also join. The link for that's going to be down in the description below, or this card right here. Super easy to do that. We have merch, Roblox merch actually, that I'd love for you to be able to check out, especially this autumn merch right here, which is going to be leaving on October 31st when the time to be able getting that is running out. So make sure you go and grab it if you want it, and don't forget to also check out our real life merch store as well. Link for that's going to be at the bottom left of your screen right here. But let's keep buffing and nerfing some heroes inside of Roblox Tower Heroes. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about some of the towers that I think could use a nerf. So this is the exact opposite of what we were doing just a second ago. The only exception to this being Byte right here. I forgot to add him onto the deck earlier when I was doing the buffs. First and foremost, I do think the first tower that needs a buff is Spectre. Obviously, Spectre is extremely good at what it does, and it buffs damage of every tower within its range by double. So in my opinion, if it were me, I would go down here to the Spectre, and I would give this thing a level 5 instead of giving it, where's it at? I would probably give it a 1.75 instead of a 2 times damage. So now it's going to be at, let's see here. Now it's only at 75% plus damage. And this is still really, really good. Obviously, you could adjust the levels 1 through 4 according to this right here. Levels 1 and 2, I don't really think need that much nerfing in comparison to this. However, I do think levels 3 and 4 would. But just to show you guys kind of what level 3 would look like in my eyes, I definitely think 35% plus damage is only a 5% reduction right here. And then a pretty big chunk off of level 4 as well. This would go down from 75 or 70% to 55%, and then finally getting a max damage of 75. Speaking of other nerfs, we have Haze right here, which I don't think really needs a huge nerf on it. The one thing that I would do is I would probably reduce some of the damage that it does. I personally would probably turn this down to 24 right here, just to equal it out a little bit more if you were to buff Beetrice. And then rate we could actually turn up to 9 as well. Not much you can do about the range really right here. This is also a good time to know what the damage would look like for here if we were to reduce some of the range or the power here on Spectre, as well as some of the power on a tower like Haze. Now we're up to only 49 damage, and this seems pretty well balanced considering you could have about 4 birds. Considering if you had 2 of these guys placed, it would be 8. You could even go as far as to let this one summon 7 birds and only be able to place 1 Haze. That seems pretty logical as well. That could also save you some mana in the long run. Now let's talk about this little guy right here. This is Branch, but this is its original stats right here. It has a cooldown of 1.8 seconds, rate of 0.2, damage of 21, and a range of 12.5. Let's start out by turning that range of 12.5 down to just 11, make it a little bit smaller. We could turn the duration of how long it attacks down to 3 instead of 3.5, boost that to 0.4, and actually increase the damage by 2, the area damage that this boss does by just 2 right there. And then we could definitely go ahead and put that up to a value of 2 seconds right there, and then maybe reduce the damage down to 19. Not much else that I would do. This is still a pretty well balanced tower, but just a couple of things to make it a little less like powerful or dominating, because a lot of people use Branch. Finally, let's talk about Odd Port right here. Let's go ahead and get one of these guys placed down. There's not a whole lot that I would change about this right here. This is definitely a very balanced summoner right here. However, it is the best in my opinion of all of them. So let's go ahead and change a couple of stats really quickly. When we get to level 5, we have all of these guys that are doing damage at once. In fact, let's go ahead and upgrade that to level 5 really quickly. We could definitely have a slightly slower rate of which it spawns. It has a range of 12. I don't think I want to change this a lot, so let's just go ahead and change that down to a rate of 11, or a range of 11, I should say. And considering this one has a lot of different damage that it can do, I'd probably say on the low end that it probably needs to be maybe 12 to 10, and maybe on the high end it could be 60 to 58. So definitely not a lot changed there, but one more that I do want to talk about which needs to probably be buffed, which is this byte right here. Definitely a lot of things on byte that could be fixed, especially here on levels 4 through 5, I believe. It has a range of 5, paralyzed 5 seconds. That's how long it is stayed stunned for. But it has a speed of 0, which means that that's going to be how slow the enemy goes, which is freezing it. But then it has an immunity of 25 seconds, which I really feel needs to be buffed. With the rise of El Goblino inside the game kind of taking place, byte just needs a major rework on some of these stats, which would be super simple. I feel like there needs to be a very short immunity pause here. Personally, I would put this value instead of 25, I would say just 5. And honestly, I would put the freeze level up to 8 seconds. We'll keep everything else the same. And maybe really with this tower, it would just be really decreasing the price of what you pay to have to really level this up. But basically doing this to everything else, I really feel could do a lot for this tower. It doesn't need a huge range. I feel like a range of 5 is reasonable for this one. So now that I've showed you all the things that I would change about these heroes right here, let's go ahead and show that what happens when an actual enemy comes through. I've only put one haste down because in my opinion, I really feel like there only needs to be one haste placeable with those 7 crows that he can spawn by himself. I also placed down one of these level 4 bytes and edited the stats on this one. You can see it right here if you want to kind of take some notes there in your mind. I've decided to go and spawn a big alien right here. So we're going to have all these 7 crows coming to attack this thing right now. It might not even last until it gets there. Never mind. I decided to go with this alien boss right here instead. Those crows are just beating up on the other one way too quickly. And remember, we actually nerfed this. We didn't actually buff it. So, I mean, that's pretty good that they're still doing some good damage there. There's our odd port right there, and that did pretty good. So we're getting over into the areas where the branches are fixing to come into play. And now we've got this byte, which is going to freeze it right here very quickly as well. And see, this is what I'm wanting to happen right here. While it's still in the range of this byte, it only has an immunity of 5 seconds. So it can freeze it multiple times within the byte range. And when you have 2 of them put together right here, this is the perfect combo. And while that may be a little bit much with putting it at 5 seconds, maybe 10 seconds is a little bit better. You kind of get the idea. I just want to be able to stun the enemy multiple times while it was within the range of the byte. Now, even though we can't have all of these right now, or not all of these things have come true with these heroes as of this moment, we still have many videos of which these are just the regular old selves. So make sure to click one of those right here. Click on one of these playlists. We got a whole bunch of Tower Heroes content that I know you're gonna love. So click one of these videos right here on the side of your screen. Let's continue to have some fun together.